Let's be honest, most people aren't undisciplined because they're lazy. They're undisciplined because they're unclear, unfocused, and emotionally unaligned with what really matters. Self-discipline isn't something you're born with, it's built. Anyone? Yes, anyone can build it. The difference between the top 1% and the rest isn't talent or luck. It's how consistently they do the things that others only say they'll do. And that starts with following a set of rules that condition your nervous system for excellence. Most people don't struggle with discipline because they're weak. They struggle because they're unclear. When your mind is foggy, your actions become inconsistent. Think about it. How can you expect to follow through every day when you haven't even defined what winning looks like for you? Clarity isn't a luxury. It's the foundation of all achievement. If you want unbreakable discipline, it begins by knowing exactly what you want and why it matters at the deepest level of your being. Without clarity, you drift, you wander. You react to life instead of taking control of it. The people who achieve incredible results don't have some supernatural force inside them. They just decided what they wanted so clearly that their brain had no choice but to focus. You can't build discipline around vague ideas. I want to be successful isn't a target, it's a wish. What does success look like in your health, your relationships, your finances, your daily routine, and more importantly, why do you want it? Because when your reasons are weak, your actions will be weak. But when your reasons are powerful, discipline becomes a reflection of your purpose. The mind is goal-seeking. It's like a guided missile, but it only locks on when it has coordinates. If you don't give your mind something specific to chase, it will chase comfort, distraction, and validation, things that feel good in the moment but leave you empty later. Clarity is what programs the system. When you define your goals with precision, you align your focus, your energy, your emotions, and your time. And that's when discipline starts to flow, not as a burden, but as a natural extension of your clarity. Most people think they need more willpower. They really just need to stop living in confusion. Clarity creates momentum. And momentum is what turns one disciplined action into a habit, and a habit into a lifestyle. If you don't know your values, you'll betray them. If you don't define success for yourself, the world will define it for you. And most of what the world celebrates isn't fulfilling. It's loud, shallow, and temporary. So clarity isn't just about goals, it's about alignment. It's about making sure what you're pursuing is actually connected to who you want to become. You've got to get specific. Not just, I want to lose weight, but I will weigh this much by this date because I deserve the energy, confidence, pride that comes from being in control of my body. Not just, I want to make more money, but I will earn this amount every month by delivering massive value through this specific skill because I want to create financial freedom for my family. See the difference? Is a hope. The other is a mission. And when you're on a mission, you don't need to be pushed. You pull yourself forward because now your brain sees the picture. Your nervous system feels the reward. Emotions start working for you instead of against you. This is why clarity breeds power. When you're clear, you stop second guessing. You stop negotiating with your excuses. You stop starting over every few weeks. You wake up knowing what today is for. You organize your time around priorities instead of reacting to distractions. And slowly, you build a version of yourself that you can trust because you finally know what you stand for. Clarity isn't a one-time event. It's a daily practice. You wake up and remind yourself of the vision. You write it down. You feel it. You rehearse it. You visualize it in detail until your brain believes it's already happening. This is how champions think. They don't stumble into success. They design it with intention, with precision, and with discipline that's rooted in crystal clear purpose. You want unbreakable discipline, then get brutally honest with yourself. What do you truly want? Not what sounds good, not what others expect, what you really want in your soul. And once you have it, don't just write it down and forget it. Burn it into your mind. Make it your standard. Because once you're clear, the rest becomes strategy. Hard part isn't the grind, it's the decision. And once the decision is made with clarity, the discipline follows like a shadow. Discipline isn't born from brute strength. It doesn't come from just gritting your teeth and forcing yourself to push harder every day. That kind of discipline burns out fast. Real lasting discipline is built on one thing, your ability to take control of your emotional state, because every action we take, every decision we make is tied to how we feel in the moment. You know this already. When you feel energized, confident, and focused, you follow through. When you feel overwhelmed, bored, or defeated, you hesitate, delay, quit. The key isn't to wait for motivation. The key is to learn how to generate the emotions that create action on demand. Most people let their emotions lead them. If they feel tired, they act tired. If they feel discouraged, they back off. They feel bored, they reach for distractions. That's emotional slavery. That's reactive living. If you want to build unbreakable self-discipline, you need to become the master of your internal world. Because the truth is, we don't act based on what we know, we act based on what we already feel. That's why people can know exactly what to do to change their lives and still not do it. Knowledge isn't power until it's emotionally activated. So how do you master your state? It starts with recognizing that your emotions are not random, they are patterns. And you can interrupt and rewire those patterns through intentional action. Your body, your focus, your language. These are the levers of state control. Fastest way to shift how you feel is to move. Get out of your head and into your body. Change your posture. Stand up tall. Breathe deeply and powerfully. Stretch. Move with intensity. When your physiology changes, your biochemistry shifts, and suddenly, the same task you were avoiding feels different. But it's not just physical. Where focus goes, energy flows. What you choose to focus on in any moment will shape how you feel. If you're constantly focusing on what's missing, what's hard, what's uncertain, you'll feel drained and defeated. And when you feel that way, of course, you won't follow through. But if you direct your focus toward possibility, toward progress, toward what you can control right now, your entire state changes. You begin to feel momentum. You begin to feel like the version of yourself that takes action no matter what. Language matters too. The words you use when you talk to yourself shape your emotional experience. Say things like, "This is too hard," or "I don't feel like it," and your nervous system will believe you. But say things like, "I was made for this," or "Let's go one more rep, one more minute, more breakthrough." And you ignite something deeper inside you. The voice in your head becomes either the enemy of your discipline or the ally of your power. You choose. The truth is, discipline is an emotional game. If you can shift how you feel, shift how you act. And once you learn to manage your emotions, you'll stop relying on motivation and start building consistency. Motivation is like a spark. It's good to get things started, but it doesn't last. Discipline, on the other hand, is the fire that burns when you've learned to feed it with purpose and emotion. That fire is built from the inside out, and it's fed by daily decisions to take command of your internal world. You can't always control what happens to you. We'll throw chaos, pain, and uncertainty your way. But you can control how you show up. You can control how you respond. And the ability to shift into a state of power, energy, confidence, especially when everything around you feels hard, that's the difference between those who wish and those who win. That's the difference between temporary effort and unbreakable self-discipline. It's not about pretending to feel great all the time. It's about choosing to act like the best version of you would act, no matter how you feel. That's emotional strength. That's leadership. And it's a skill you build every time you rise above your mood, every time you reject the victim mindset, every time you say, "Let's go," when everything in you wants to quit. You're training your nervous system to obey you, not the circumstances. That is the seed of true, shakable discipline. We live in a world that celebrates options, more apps, more paths, more flexibility. But when it comes to building unbreakable discipline, options are not your friend. In fact, too many options are exactly what's sabotaging your consistency. The truth is, when you leave yourself open to negotiation, you lose momentum. Every time you have to decide whether to follow through, you're spending energy that should be reserved for taking action. And eventually, when you're tired, stressed, or emotionally drained, you'll choose the path of least resistance, not the path of growth. That's how discipline dies, not in one massive breakdown, but in hundreds of little moments where your brain convinces you to settle. Discipline doesn't thrive in a life filled with endless decisions. It thrives in a life that has been deliberately designed to remove the distractions and temptations that weaken your resolve. The strongest people don't rely on willpower every single day. They build systems and rules that eliminate the need for willpower. They make the decision to Oswansi, and then they cut off all other exits. That's how freedom is created, by reducing the number of times you need to question yourself. Let's make this real. If you want to get in shape, you still keep junk food in your house, you're negotiating, you're leaving the door open. If you want to focus, but you keep your phone next to you with notifications turned on, you're setting yourself up to lose. If you want to stop wasting time, you still haven't defined a clear daily schedule, you're not serious about discipline. You're just hoping you'll magically feel more focused tomorrow. And hope is not a strategy. When you eliminate options, you're not limiting yourself, you're liberating yourself. You're saying, this is who I am now. This is what I do. I don't need to think about it. I just act. That identity shift is what turns effort into lifestyle. You stop waking up asking, should I do it? And you start affirming, this is just what I do. That kind of certainty creates power. It reduces decision fatigue. It reduces emotional burnout. It amplifies confidence because you're proving to yourself that you can follow through. Think about it like a thermostat. A thermostat doesn't ask itself if it feels like turning on the heat when the temperature drops. It has a set point. It drops below that point. It triggers a response automatically. You needed to become that automatic in your standards. You don't have time to question your commitments every day. Your dreams deserve more than hesitation. Future deserves more than another excuse. The biggest illusion people fall for is that freedom comes from having more choices. But true freedom comes from discipline. It comes from removing everything that doesn't serve your mission. It comes from subtracting the distractions that dilute your focus. Simplicity breeds strength. The fewer options you give yourself, the more consistent you become. And consistency is where the breakthroughs happen. That's when results compound. That's when confidence multiplies. That's when you stop trying to be disciplined and start being disciplined. Cutting off escape routes means you stop entertaining failure. You stop preparing for maybe. You stop saying things like, try my best. And you replace it with, I will get it done no matter what. It's a psychological edge. It's a mental contract. And once you sign that contract with yourself, you begin to lead your life instead of managing chaos. You begin to operate with precision instead of passivity. You don't let the little voice in your head debate whether today is a good day to grow. You simply show up and execute. When you look at the highest performers, the ones who operate with discipline that seems superhuman, what you'll find is that their lives are not more complicated. They're more streamlined. They wear the same type of clothes. They eat similar meals. They follow structured routines. Why? Because they've decided that their energy is too valuable to waste on low-level decisions. Every option eliminated is a layer of mental clutter removed. And every layer removed makes space for more power, more action, more clarity. So if you're serious about becoming someone who follows through no matter what, then stop giving yourself so many chances to fail. Set rules. Make decisions once. Create an environment that supports you. When the temptations show up, and they will, don't argue with them. Just smile and remind yourself, that's no longer who I am. Routines are good, but they're not enough. You can have a routine and still be inconsistent. You can go through the motions every day and still feel like you're not making progress. Why? Because routines are mechanical. They're something you do. Rituals are emotional. They're something you honor. And that's the real difference. When you build rituals instead of just routines, you don't just stay consistent. You stay connected. You tap into something deeper. You stop treating your habits like tasks and start treating them like standards. And that shift is what builds unbreakable self-discipline. A ritual isn't just brushing your teeth or making your bed. A ritual is something you do with full intention because it's a reflection of who you're becoming. It's tied to your values, your purpose, your vision. When you treat something like a ritual, you give it respect, you protect it, you elevate it. And because of that, it sticks. That's what makes discipline sustainable. Not just by forcing yourself to check boxes, but by linking your daily habits to something that actually matters to you. Let's say you want to become someone who wakes up early and dominates the day. If it's just a routine, you might set the alarm, roll out of bed, stumble to the bathroom, maybe scroll on your phone before starting the day. But if it's a ritual, everything changes. You wake up with purpose. You put both feet on the ground and speak out your goals. You hydrate, you breathe deeply, you stretch, you journal or read something that primes your mind for excellence. That's not a routine. That's a sacred commitment. That's the kind of behavior that builds identity. The truth is you can't build discipline without identity. You have to become someone new. And rituals are how you install that new version of yourself. Every time you follow through on a ritual, you're casting a vote for the person you're becoming. You're reinforcing that this is who you are now, not just what you do when life feels easy or convenient. Rituals anchor your values into your behavior, a bridge between your goals and your habits. And the more emotionally connected you are to them, the more they hardwire discipline into your nervous system. There's also power in repetition. When you perform a ritual daily, especially at the same time and in the same way, it creates momentum. You don't need to think about whether you feel like it. You just do it. And over time, that ritual becomes non-negotiable. It becomes a signal to your brain that it's time to step into a different level of energy. It's how athletes enter the zone. It's how performers light up the stage. It's how leaders stay sharp under pressure. They don't rely on hype. They rely on ritual. But here's the thing, your rituals must be chosen consciously. Most people already have rituals, but they're unconscious. Scrolling social media first thing in the morning, that's a ritual. Complaining as soon as something goes wrong, that's a ritual. Watching Netflix every night to avoid facing your goals, that's a ritual. The problem is these rituals are reactive. They're training your mind to seek comfort, not growth. Every time you repeat them, you're conditioning yourself to avoid discipline instead of embody it. So you have to interrupt those old patterns and replace them with empowering rituals, and you don't need a dozen of them, just a few powerful ones. Perform with intention can transform your entire day. A morning ritual that sets the tone. A work ritual that helps you enter deep focus. An evening ritual that reflects, resets, and prepares you for tomorrow. These aren't just habits, they're statements. They're moments of truth. And they become anchors of discipline because they're no longer optional. They're part of your standard. Rituals also remind you why you started. In a world full of noise, they help you return to center. They give you control over your time, your energy, and your emotions. And when life gets chaotic, and it will, your rituals keep you grounded. You don't spiral when things get tough because you've trained yourself to respond from stability, not stress. That's what makes them so powerful. They give you a sense of ownership in a world that constantly tries to pull you off course. If you want to become someone who doesn't rely on motivation, start creating rituals that reflect the version of you that already lives with discipline. Let those rituals guide your behavior until the behavior becomes identity. Once it becomes identity, you don't need to try anymore. You just live it. One of the most defining traits of highly disciplined people is their ability to delay gratification. That ability to say no to what feels good now for the sake of something better later isn't just a sign of strength. It's the foundation of long-term success. And the truth is, it's not always glamorous. In fact, it's often boring, repetitive, uncomfortable. But the people who achieve real transformation, mentally, physically, emotionally, are the ones who've trained themselves to sit in that discomfort without needing immediate rewards to keep going. They've built a kind of mental muscle most people never even develop. We live in a world that encourages instant results. Everything is at our fingertips. Food, entertainment, attention. You don't even need to leave your bed to get a dopamine hit. That's the trap. Because when you're constantly fed the message that everything should happen fast, you start believing that if it's not happening fast, it's not working. But real growth doesn't happen fast. Real progress takes time. It's invisible at first. It's built in silence behind the scenes when nobody's clapping. And the discipline to keep going without needing proof today, that's what separates those who merely dream from those who actually build. Delayed gratification is a test of how much you value your future over your comfort. Every time you choose the long game, you're casting a vote for the person you're becoming. Every time you resist the urge to take the easy path, sending a signal to your brain, I'm in control. My future matters more than this momentary pleasure. That's power. That's control. That's real freedom. Because you're no longer a slave to impulse. You're not reactive, intentional. And the more you do it, the stronger that part of you becomes. It's not about denying yourself joy. It's about earning it. It's about saying, I deserve more than this quick fix. I deserve the full reward that comes from discipline, effort, and patience. Because nothing tastes better than pride. Pride in knowing you didn't fold when things got uncomfortable. Pride in knowing you kept your word to yourself. That kind of pride isn't given. It's earned in the moments where quitting feels easier and nobody would blame you, but you keep going anyway. People often think discipline is about pushing harder, but sometimes discipline is quiet. Sometimes it's just sitting with the urge to quit and breathing through it. Sometimes it's telling yourself, yes, I could take the shortcut, but that shortcut costs me more in the long run. You start realizing that everything has a price. Comfort has a price, laziness has a price, giving it has a price, and that price is usually regret, stagnation, and wasted potential. On the other hand, discipline has a price too, effort, sacrifice, and patience. But its reward, pride, power, and progress. Every time you delay gratification, you build integrity. You deepen trust in yourself. You train your brain to stop needing external rewards to keep going. And that's where the game changes. Because if you're only disciplined when there's applause, recognition, or results, you'll be fragile. You'll stop the moment things get quiet. But if you build the ability to keep moving even when nobody's watching, even when the results are invisible, that's when you become unbreakable. This mindset is what champions live by. They don't just train hard when it's easy or exciting. They train hard every day because they know the reward isn't just in the outcome. It's in who they're becoming in the process. They fall in love with the delay, with the grind, with the solitude, because they know that success isn't about the fast win. It's about becoming someone who can sustain success over time. And that kind of person is built in the waiting. If you want to develop unshakable self-discipline, train yourself to get excited about what most people avoid, the pause between action and reward. That quiet space where you've done the work but haven't seen the results yet. That's where most people fall off. But if you can learn to stand in that space and still keep showing up, still keep pushing forward, still keep believing, that's where your edge is created. So the next time you're tempted to cut corners, to indulge in something that gives you short-term pleasure at the cost of long-term growth, stop and ask yourself, is this helping me become who I'm meant to be? And if the answer is no, then honor your future more than your current mood. That choice, that little moment of sacrifice, isn't just discipline. It's destiny being shaped in real time. One of the greatest lies people tell themselves is that they just need more willpower to stay disciplined. But willpower is like a battery. It runs out. It fades as the day goes on, especially when you're tired, stressed, or overwhelmed. Relying solely on willpower is a trap because it assumes you're always going to be at your best. But you won't be. Happens. Emotions shift. Energy dips. And if your discipline is built on how strong you feel in any given moment, you'll eventually fail. That's why the most disciplined people don't rely on willpower. They rely on structure. They rely on strategy. Above all, they rely on their environment. Your environment is either working for you or against you. There is no neutral ground. Every object, every person, every noise, every habit around you is either making discipline easier or making it harder. The problem is most people don't design their environment. They just live in it. They react to it. They absorb it. And over time, their surroundings silently shape their standards, their focus, and ultimately their outcomes. You can't expect to act like a high performer while living in a space designed for comfort, chaos, or distraction. Discipline needs a container. It needs a setting that supports it. Think about how much energy you waste every day resisting temptations that wouldn't even exist if you simply restructured your environment. You wouldn't have to resist junk food if it wasn't in your kitchen. You wouldn't have to battle procrastination if your workspace wasn't cluttered with distractions. You wouldn't need to constantly re-motivate yourself if your circle of friends were also living with high standards. That's not weakness. That's human nature. And the smart ones understand that if you want to change your behavior, start by changing your surroundings. Look around. What's in your space that's pulling you off track? Behaviors are being triggered automatically by what you've allowed into your physical and digital environments. Is your phone the first thing you see in the morning? Is your TV remote more accessible than your journal or book? Your desk surrounded by clutter that keeps your brain overloaded. These may seem like small things, but they add up. Your environment is silently scripting your behavior day after day, and you probably don't even notice it. Now flip that. What would it look like to create an environment that pulls discipline out of you naturally? Imagine waking up and your gym clothes are already laid out. Your water bottle is filled. Your to-do list is written the night before and staring you in the face. Your phone is in another room and your morning is quiet, focused, and intentional. That's not about willpower, that's about setting the stage. When your environment is built around your priorities, your behavior becomes automatic. Discipline becomes easier because the friction is removed. And it's not just physical, it's social too. Who you spend time with matters more than you think. If your environment is filled with people who constantly complain, play small, avoid responsibility, that energy will rub off on you. You can't out-discipline a toxic circle. You have to protect your energy. You have to surround yourself with people who remind you of your standards, not your limitations. People who challenge you to level up, not settle down. That's part of your environment too. And it's just as important as anything else. You can't always control everything around you, but you can influence a lot more than you think. Start small. Remove one distraction from your space. Replace one negative influence with a positive one. Simplify your surroundings until they reflect the kind of life you're trying to build, because your brain is constantly scanning the environment looking for cues. When your environment screams focus, growth, and intention, your mind and body respond. Discipline thrives when you don't have to fight for it every day. It thrives when the path is clear, the noise is low, the environment is aligned with your goals. So if you want to be more consistent, stop blaming your willpower and start fixing your surroundings. Strongest version of you is already inside you. It's just buried under layers of distractions and misaligned environments. Strip those away and you'll discover that self-discipline isn't as hard as it's been feeling. It's simply been fighting a war it can't win alone. Change the battlefield and you'll change the game.